Have you ever felt that certain childhood memories aren't just ordinary memories? Those moments that seem out of time, inexplicable feelings, fears, or intense passions that arise for no apparent reason. And that, somehow, continued to echo into your adult life? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover now could change the way you see your own story. Often what we call childhood carries much more than simple experiences. It can hide fragments of past lives, memories that have transcended time and manifest in subtle yet powerful ways, in your personality, your choices, and even your deepest emotions. Psychography and spiritual messages teach us that every detail, every seemingly trivial memory, can be a valuable clue to who we were before being born into this life. Emmanuel, a spirit who worked intensely with Chico Xavier, guides us on this path of discovery. According to him, childhood is a sacred territory full of signs that connect us with stories that transcend the limits of time. It is through these early experiences that many lessons are repeated, that patterns manifest, and that the soul reveals its marks and learnings from previous lives. Have you ever noticed that some children seem to have senseless fears or unexpected affinities with certain people, places, or even objects? Emmanuel explains that these sensations may not be mere whims of the child's mind, but rather memories of moments lived in another existence, profound impressions that still resonate in the present. It could be memories of courage, loss, love, or even challenges left unfinished, seeking solutions in this life. The curious thing is that we don't always perceive these signs consciously. Often, they present themselves as sudden intuitions, recurring dreams, or even natural talents that seem to emerge out of nowhere. What you discover now may surprise you, because these childhood clues, if observed carefully, can reveal not only what you were, but also who you are and what paths your soul desires to follow. Imagine, for a moment, that every inexplicable fear, every intense passion, or every peculiar fascination from your childhood is no coincidence, but rather a silent message from who you once were. Emmanuel reminds us that the soul leaves subtle traces at every stage of life. And childhood is the first stage where these messages present themselves clearly, even if disguised by the child's gaze. Perhaps you've experienced feelings of déjà vu, attractions to unfamiliar places, or even a talent that seems too natural to be explained solely by environment or genetics. These signs, often unnoticed, carry within them a transformative power. And the good news is that by identifying them, you begin to understand recurring patterns, reconcile old fears, and connect with a version of yourself that has existed for a long time. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes we'll explore together how these seemingly ordinary childhood experiences can be much more than you imagine. We'll discover signs that may have been present in you since your earliest years, which can reveal fragments of your previous existence, shedding light on the choices and challenges you face today. It's a fascinating exploration, blending spirituality, psychography, and deep reflections on the soul, revealing a world of possibilities hidden in the simplest childhood. Memories. Have you ever felt that some memories from your childhood seem strangely intense, as if they carry a meaning you can't explain? Perhaps it's that fear that appears out of nowhere, or an inexplicable affinity with certain places, people, or even objects. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may deeply surprise you. Often, these seemingly common childhood signs are actually powerful clues to experiences lived in past lives. Emmanuel, the spirit who worked alongside Chico Xavier, teaches us through psychography that these early experiences don't happen by chance. They can be memories, unfinished lessons, or feelings that the soul carries from previous existences. Manifesting subtly but constantly in our daily lives, have you ever felt like you were born with a natural talent for something, without ever having studied or learned it before? Or felt an inexplicable attraction to places or cultures you've never personally encountered? Emmanuel warns us that these affinities and abilities can have roots in past lives, an echo of what you experienced before arriving in this existence. Imagine discovering that intense passion for music, painting, or even a certain lifestyle isn't just coincidence, but a thread connecting you to much earlier experiences, full of meaning and learning. Even seemingly irrational fears, which have accompanied us since our earliest years, can be signs of experiences that left deep marks on the soul, inviting you to understand and overcome repetitive patterns. Think of a child who is afraid of water, even though they've never drowned, or someone who demonstrates courage and skill in situations most people would consider dangerous. These manifestations could be memories imprinted on the soul, remnants of past lives that somehow influence how we react and feel in this lifetime. Emmanuel explains that recognizing these signs is essential for spiritual growth, as it allows us to look within ourselves with greater awareness, noticing recurring patterns and understanding emotions that would otherwise seem inexplicable. Stay with me, because understanding these experiences is like opening a door to your soul's past, revealing layers of who you truly are, beyond what your current life reveals. And don't think this is just theory or abstraction. Many accounts of people who have received spiritual messages, guided by mediums or through psychography, describe striking childhood experiences that clearly indicate memories from previous lives. It could be an instant connection with someone who becomes a friend, an attraction to certain places, or even a feeling of nostalgia that arises for no reason. What you'll discover now is that these signs are not mere accidents of fate, but fragments of your own spiritual history, seeking to be understood and integrated into your present life. Imagine discovering that old fear, that intense passion, or even a natural ability has roots much deeper than you ever imagined. Stay with me, because in the coming moments we'll explore together how to recognize these signs in childhood and interpret their messages in ways that can transform your self-perception. We'll delve into stories, concrete examples, and teachings from Emmanuel that reveal how childhood, much more than a phase of life, is a subtle map of your spiritual journey, connecting you to what you've experienced before and paving the way for what's yet to come. Have you ever stopped to consider that many of your childhood experiences weren't just fleeting moments, but signs that carry profound lessons for your current life? Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now could transform the way you view your emotions, choices, and even your relationships. Emmanuel, the spirit who worked alongside Chico Xavier, reminds us that childhood is a veritable map of the soul where every fear, every passion, and every seemingly spontaneous talent can contain messages from past lives. What if I told you that understanding these messages isn't just a spiritual curiosity, but a practical tool to improve your life right now? We often repeat patterns without realizing it. Fears that paralyze us, insecurities that prevent us from moving forward, relationships that seem to always follow the same dynamic. Knowing the signs engraved in us since childhood can be the key to identifying these repetitions and finally breaking the cycles that limit us. Have you ever experienced this? That inexplicable feeling of sadness or anxiety, or even an intense attraction to something that seems meaningless? Emmanuel explains that these experiences are messages from the soul, invitations to look within, recognize patterns, and choose more conscious paths. Self-acceptance, according to him, begins precisely by understanding that what you feel or do is not random, but has deep roots in your spiritual journey. Imagine being able to look at situations that previously seemed complicated or confusing and realize they're there to teach you something important about yourself. It could be a recurring conflict in a relationship, a recurring difficulty at work, or even a talent you've always had but didn't know where it came from. Emmanuel reminds us that understanding these messages is the first step toward spiritual evolution and living a lighter, more conscious life. It's not just about understanding the past, but about using this knowledge to live better in the present, making decisions more aligned with your true essence. What if I told you that some experiences from your childhood could be giving you clues about your mission in life? Something that seemed insignificant, like an attraction to a certain place, an intense affinity with someone, or even a naturally emerging talent, could be showing you the direction your soul desires to follow. Stay with me, because understanding these signs is not only a spiritual exercise, but a way to apply profound teachings to your daily life. Each discovery, Each insight you gain into your own history can be a powerful tool for resolving internal conflicts, improving your relationships, and walking more consciously, aligned with who you truly are. Over the next few moments, we'll explore how these childhood messages can be interpreted and applied in practice, helping you recognize patterns, understand emotions, and make clearer, more conscious decisions. It's a fascinating journey that blends spirituality, psychography, and reflections on the soul, demonstrating that looking back on your childhood is, in fact, an essential step toward living better in the present and preparing for the future. What you discover now may open doors you never knew existed, revealing deep connections between who you were, who you are, and who you can still become. Have you ever stopped to carefully observe your childhood, as if each memory were a clue left for you? Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now could change the way you perceive not only the past, but also the present and future of your life. We often forget that every detail of our childhood, every emotion, every fear, or intense joy, carries messages much deeper than we imagine. According to Emmanuel, a spirit who worked alongside Chico Xavier, these memories are not mere records of events, but subtle signs that connect us with the essence of our soul, offering lessons that can transform our way of life. Have you ever experienced that feeling of nostalgia you can't explain? As if you've experienced something before, even though you've never been to the place or situation, or felt an instant connection with certain people, as if they were acquaintances from another life? Emmanuel reminds us that every childhood experience is an invitation to look within ourselves, recognizing patterns, understanding emotions, and discovering facets of our own essence that have remained hidden for years. What you discover now may surprise you, as these seemingly simple memories are actually powerful tools for spiritual evolution and living more consciously. Reflecting on childhood goes far beyond nostalgia or the memory of happy or sad moments. It's an invitation to understand that every sensation we experience, every natural talent or inexplicable fear, carries within it the energy of ancient learning, lessons the soul still needs to integrate, and experiences that help shape who we are today. Stay with me, because observing these spiritual messages with attention and care allows you to transform internal conflicts into understanding, repetitive patterns into learning, and moments of doubt into opportunities for growth. Emmanuel teaches us that looking at childhood with this awareness is, in fact, an exercise in self-acceptance, self-love, in connection with our true essence. Imagine realizing that every memory, every emotion from childhood is not just a page from the past, but a portal to understanding who you truly are. It is in this space that spirituality meets practical life, showing that the teachings of the past are not just in the past, but act concretely today. Fears, passions, talents, and affinities that emerged in the early years of life can become valuable guides, pointing the way to more conscious choices, healthier relationships, and a path aligned with your soul's mission. Emmanuel reinforces that every sign we leave in childhood is, in fact, a message from the soul, a reminder that life does not happen by chance and that every experience carries meaning. Stay with me, because in the coming moments we'll delve even deeper into this discovery, exploring how these childhood messages can be interpreted, understood, and applied to your life. Every detail you observe, every emotion you recognize, can become a silent guide, revealing deep connections between who you were, who you are, and who you can still become. As Emmanuel reminds us, every memory, every emotion from childhood can be a portal to understanding who you truly are. And it is precisely through this portal that we will continue our journey, revealing paths and teachings that can illuminate your present in surprising ways. And as you reflect on all this, I want to invite you to connect even more deeply with this experience. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below about what touched you most or a memory from your childhood that somehow seems to carry profound messages. Sharing your experience not only helps you organize your own perceptions, but also creates a space for exchange and acceptance, where others can identify and find comfort in knowing they are not alone in this quest for understanding. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, spreading spiritual reflections that can touch hearts and transform lives. And if you feel inspired or touched by what you're hearing throughout this video, don't forget to like it. A simple click shows that these topics are important to you and, in turn, helps more people discover these messages that often go unnoticed. Every like, every comment, every share is a way to strengthen this community of people who seek to understand life, the soul, and the signs that have accompanied us since childhood. And if you're not yet a subscriber, subscribing to the channel is the most direct way to continue following this type of content, to continue receiving these profound reflections, and to keep this connection alive. Here, we are together, exploring every sign, every memory, every message from childhood that can reveal so much about who we are and who we can still become. Your every action, every gesture of participation, helps bring these ideas to more hearts, creating a circle of learning, reflection, and growth that goes far beyond the screen. So, as you prepare to continue diving into this journey, think back to your own childhood, to the little clues that may already be before your eyes. And don't be afraid to share, like, and subscribe, because that's how we can transform this message into something alive, capable of reaching and touching even more people. Stay with me, because there's still so much to discover, and each detail that follows can shed new light on what you've already begun to perceive. Have you ever felt that certain childhood memories aren't just ordinary memories? Those sensations that emerge out of nowhere, images that seem repeated, emotions so intense you wonder where they came from, as if they were fragments of a time you never consciously experienced. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover now may reveal much more than you imagine about your own soul and the paths you've traveled before arriving here. Often, the moments we consider banal, that inexplicable fear of places we've never visited, an irresistible attraction to certain people, or even a natural talent that emerges effortlessly, are signs of a hidden truth, clues left by the very essence of who you were in previous lives. Emmanuel, a spirit who worked with Chico Xavier, reminds us that childhood is not just a phase of superficial discoveries, but a sacred territory where the soul records learnings, experiences, and lessons that have yet to be understood. According to him, every memory, every emotion, every sensation that seems out of place can be a fragment of a larger story. And understanding this is the first step towards a true inner transformation. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because when we begin to look at childhood with attentive eyes, we realize that everything has meaning, even that which seemed insignificant. That intense shyness that accompanied your early years, or that courage that emerged in the most unexpected moments, can be much more than personality traits. They can be echoes of past lives, subtle recordings of the soul seeking to be understood. Imagine realizing that the feeling of déjà vu you sometimes feel, or the inexplicable attraction to certain places or people, is no coincidence, but rather an ancient message that has traversed time and found a way to manifest itself in your current life. Emmanuel shows us that these early experiences carry a real impact, influencing choices, decisions, and even the way we relate to the world. It's as if childhood were a secret backstage, where the pieces of a broader spiritual journey begin to silently fall into place. And the most fascinating thing is that, as you recognize these signs, you begin to notice a gradual transformation in your mindset. We begin to interpret emotions and situations from a new perspective, understanding that many of the challenges we face today's viewers, insecurities, repetitive patterns, do not arise out of nowhere, but are consequences of older stories that still cry out for understanding. Every minor trauma, every inexplicable fascination, every ability that seems magical because it is so natural, is a clue to your own spiritual journey. Emmanuel emphasizes that the soul is wise, that it records everything, and that these memories are not there to confuse us, but to guide us. It's fascinating to see how the soul's invisible past can reflect on the present, influencing everything from simple, everyday decisions to profound choices that shape the course of an entire life. When we look at these memories with curiosity and affection, we begin to realize that there is an internal logic, a sequence of signals that lead us to understand who we truly are. A simple talent, an inexplicable affinity, or an old fear can be the beginning of a greater revelation. This is where the spiritual journey intersects with everyday practice. Understanding what the soul has experienced gives us tools to make more conscious decisions, to act according to the essence it carries, and to transform repetitive experiences into learning and growth. It's as if each fragment of childhood memory were a key, and each key could open doors to truths hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. Key could open doors to truths hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. Now, by observing these signs, you may begin to notice subtleties that previously went unnoticed. It could be the attraction to places that evoke strong feelings of belonging, friendships that form with surprising naturalness, or even dreams that insist on repeating themselves, carrying messages that need to be interpreted. Childhood then reveals itself as a silent map full of indicators that point to paths, revelations, and possibilities for transformation. It is in this territory that we can begin to understand the relationship between what we experienced before and what we experience now, and realize that the present is directly influenced by these deep memories, which often guide us without our knowing it, guiding our thoughts, choices, and even our perception of who we can become. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. Have you ever noticed how certain childhood memories insist on remaining alive in your mind, even when you try to ignore them? It could be a fear that makes no sense, an attraction to something or someone you've never really met, or even a talent that seems to have emerged out of nowhere without any rational explanation. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because these seemingly banal experiences can be much more than simple memories. They are fragments of a hidden truth, signs left by your own soul that carry stories from past lives, ready to reveal important impacts on how you live and feel today. Emmanuel, through Chico Xavier's messages, reminds us that these early experiences do not happen by chance. Every inexplicable fear, every fascination with certain places, every natural talent that emerges spontaneously is often a lesson or a reminder of a journey the soul took before being born into this life, waiting to be understood and integrated into the present journey. Consider, for example, a child who is afraid of water. Even though they've never had an accident or traumatic experience related to rivers or swimming pools, this seemingly irrational fear may be the manifestation of a deep memory, something the soul carried from a previous life and that continues to echo in the body and mind. Or consider those cases of children who demonstrate surprising artistic, intellectual, or athletic abilities without ever having received specific training or encouragement. Emmanuel explains that these talents may be reflections of past experiences, memories that remain latent, ready to manifest when the current personality is ready to recognize them. Imagine discovering that that old fear or that intense passion you felt in childhood has much deeper roots than you ever imagined. Understanding these signs not only connects us with our own history, but also offers us powerful insights into how we can act, choose, and transform our lives now. It's curious to realize that these signals aren't limited to isolated experiences, but appear as subtle, almost invisible patterns that shape the way we think, feel, and react. A child who feels inexplicably drawn to distant cultures, who feels an immediate affinity for certain people, or who demonstrates intense empathy in situations that would normally provoke indifference, is revealing clues about the trajectory of their own soul. Emmanuel reminds us that the soul records everything, every emotion, every experience, every lesson learned. And it's fascinating to note that, even without awareness, we carry these memories as silent guides, shaping decisions, revealing talents, and pointing out paths we often don't fully understand. These signs may be subtle, but their impact on our lives is profound. Imagine realizing that that intuition you've always had, that immediate connection with someone, or a persistent feeling of déjà vu, isn't just coincidence. They're traces of past experiences trying to communicate with you, inviting you to reflect, understand, and integrate these memories into your current life. The truth is that when we learn to pay close attention to these childhood signs, we begin to see repetitive patterns, unconscious choices, and even forgotten talents that can be reclaimed and consciously utilized. Every fear, every fascination, every unusual ability or affinity is a fragment of a larger puzzle, an invisible backstage of our spiritual history that, if understood, reveals surprising connections between who we were, who we are, and who we can become. Emmanuel emphasizes that these experiences exist not simply to confuse or emotionally overwhelm us, but to guide us, teach us, and offer us opportunities for profound transformation. Perceiving these messages is, therefore, more than an exercise in curiosity. It is a way to begin a journey of self-discovery, understanding our own soul, and aligning with the truth that dwells within us. And when you begin to interpret these experiences, something magical happens. Childhood ceases to be just a distant memory and becomes a map full of signs, revelations, and clues, each one offering learning and potential for evolution. It's as if each emotion, each talent, or each old fear acts as a silent compass, pointing toward more conscious decisions, choices more aligned with your essence, and paths that can positively impact your life journey. The beauty of this process is that it doesn't require superhuman effort. All it takes is attention, curiosity, and a willingness to look within honestly, recognizing that what seemed inexplicable has meaning, purpose, and transformative power. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because when we can see these experiences as signs of the soul, we open space for reflections that go beyond common understanding. We can begin to perceive how childhood functions as a laboratory of the soul, where patterns repeat themselves, talents manifest, and lessons are subtly presented, preparing us for future decisions and impacting how we relate to the world, others, and ourselves. Each memory that seemed isolated or unimportant then reveals itself as an invisible thread connecting past, present, and future, allowing us to interpret our lives with greater clarity, greater awareness, and, above all, greater depth. Comment there. That makes sense to me. Have you ever stopped to think that those childhood memories, which seem simple or even irrelevant, may be offering powerful signals about how you live today? Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when we begin to look at these experiences carefully, we begin to realize that childhood is not just an archive of memories, but a true laboratory of the soul, where patterns, talents, and fears intertwine to prepare the person you are becoming. Emmanuel teaches us through Chico Xavier's messages that each early experience has a real impact on our present and the choices we make. Understanding these messages is not just an abstract spiritual reflection. It is a practical tool that helps us transform internal conflicts, make more conscious decisions, and create a life path more aligned with the essence of our soul. Think about the patterns that repeat themselves in your life, the attitudes that seem to arise almost automatically, the emotional reactions that often surprise us, that constant impatience, that irrational fear, or even the ease with which we connect with certain people almost instantly. Almost instantly, all of these carry traces of previous experiences, memories that remain imprinted in the soul and now manifest as signs and opportunities for learning. Emmanuel reinforces that observing these clues is the first step towards spiritual evolution. Every time we identify a repetitive pattern, understand the origin of a fear, or recognize a natural ability, we are exercising a deeper awareness, transforming seemingly ordinary experiences into tools for self-knowledge and growth. What if I told you that some experiences from your childhood could be giving you clues about your mission in this life? What you felt intensely as a child, whether fascination, fear, joy, or attraction to something specific's often an indication of paths your soul wishes to explore now. Imagine discovering that unusual sensitivity, or that talent that seemed to emerge out of nowhere, is not just an isolated characteristic, but rather an invitation to take on roles, make decisions, or develop skills that have a profound purpose. It's as if life itself is offering a silent compass, pointing to choices that can transform not only the present, but also how you relate to yourself and the world around you. The practice of observing. And interpreting these messages allows for real transformation. Self-acceptance arises naturally when we understand that fears, fascinations, and talents are not flaws or accidents, but rather elements of a spiritual journey that has accompanied us for a long time. Each insight we gain into our childhood memories helps us deal with internal conflicts, improve relationships, and make decisions that better reflect who we truly are. Emmanuel emphasizes that understanding these experiences is a path to living more lightly and consciously, because it connects us with the essence that remains despite all external circumstances, revealing a hidden truth that until then might have gone unnoticed. When we begin to apply this attentive approach to our daily lives, we notice subtle but impactful changes. Situations that once seemed challenging begin to take on meaning, and important decisions become clearer, guided by a consciousness that integrates past, present, and purpose. It's like accessing the backstage of our own existence, discovering that childhood wasn't just a period of superficial learning, but rather a strategic space of the soul, filled with signals that help us understand repetitive patterns and lead our lives in a more spiritually aligned way. Noticing these connections also awakens a sense of lightness and confidence, because we begin to act knowing that we're not just reacting to chance, but rather following a path of coherence and intention. And the most impressive thing is that this understanding can expand our mindset in surprising ways. What seemed like innocent memories or isolated events begin to reveal a profound impact on current decisions, behaviors, and feelings. The simple act of reflecting on these signals allows us to interpret life more consciously, bringing clarity to complex situations and opening space for choices that are truly aligned with our essence. Each emotion identified, each pattern understood, each talent recognized, acts as a small revelation, a glimpse of truth that connects past, present, and future, helping to guide the journey in a safer, more conscious, and transformative way. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because when we allow ourselves to realize that every detail of childhood, no matter how small, carries a message, we come into contact with a dimension of life that is often hidden, but which has the power to change perceptions, decisions, and attitudes. It is at this point that understanding the signs of childhood ceases to be merely a reflection and becomes a practice of self-knowledge, mental transformation, and personal evolution. Early experiences seen from this perspective begin to function as subtle indicators of what we need to integrate, understand, or develop, offering powerful tools for interpreting our own history and shaping our own trajectory in a conscious, balanced way, aligned with the truth of the soul. Comment there, I'm on this journey too. Have you ever stopped to reflect on how childhood, with all its colors, fears, discoveries, and passions, is actually a veritable laboratory of the soul? I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when we look carefully and lovingly at these memories, we realize that every detail has an impact that goes far beyond what we can see at first glance. Every laugh that seemed spontaneous, every cry that seemed unprovoked, every fascination with something or someone, all of these carry signs, subtle messages from the soul that silently guide us throughout life. Emmanuel through the messages. Psychographed by Chico Xavier reminds us that childhood is not just a period of superficial learning, but a strategic territory where the soul leaves important records, clues that can help us interpret patterns, decisions, and even talents that emerge unexpectedly. When we allow ourselves to observe childhood from this perspective, we begin to perceive life differently. That shyness, that sudden courage, the inexplicable fears, or the talents that emerge almost naturally are not just isolated characteristics, but fragments of a much larger story, a narrative that spans time, space, and previous lives. Every intense emotion, every seemingly inexplicable fascination or aversion can be seen as a revelation, an opportunity to understand repetitive patterns, identify unconscious decisions, and align our trajectory more consciously. It's as if the soul has constructed an invisible map, leaving strategic signs to guide us and prepare us for the life unfolding in the present. And it is precisely at this point that reflection becomes transformative. Observing childhood carefully isn't just about reliving memories, but about recognizing the real impact these experiences have on our mindset, on how we make decisions and relate to others. It's about realizing that every fear that persisted, every passion that marked us, every talent that blossomed spontaneously has an internal logic, a reason that goes far beyond what the rational mind can comprehend. Emmanuel teaches us that these memories are not coincidences. They are tools for the present, instruments of self-knowledge and transformation, capable of illuminating areas of life that previously seemed nebulous or confusing. Imagine looking at an old fear and seeing it not as an obstacle, but as a sign from the soul, a fundamental piece of a larger puzzle that reveals patterns and pathways. Imagine realizing that intense curiosity or immediate affinity with something or someone is actually a silent compass. It's pointing to choices that make sense not only in the current context, but in the grand narrative of your life. It is in this exercise of attention and interpretation that we begin to understand that the soul's past is not lost. It acts as a guide, impacting decisions, behaviors, and even relationships. Each childhood memory can therefore function as a portal connecting us to profound truths, subtle revelations that help us navigate our own existence more consciously. When we can view childhood this way, a natural transformation begins to occur. Self-acceptance becomes more genuine as we begin to understand that our fears, talents, and fascinations are not flaws, but records of experiences that the soul still needs to integrate. Our mindset expands as we begin to realize that repetitive patterns are not mere accidents, but strategic signals that indicate paths to be revisited or adjusted. Decisions become more conscious, aligned with our essence, and not just automatic reactions to external stimuli. Emmanuel reminds us that this awareness is the first step to living a lighter and more harmonious life, transforming past experiences into valuable learning for the present. And when we reflect fondly on our childhood, we also realize the beauty of perceiving the connection between past and present. Every detail, every emotion, every talent or fear that once seemed isolated now reveals itself as part of a grand script of the soul, an invisible framework that guides our journey. It is in this space that we discover that memories are not simply stored in the past, but are instruments of revelation, guides that help us interpret patterns, understand feelings, and make decisions that reflect our true essence. Each memory becomes an opportunity for self-discovery, each emotion a bridge connecting experience, learning, and transformation, bringing clarity and meaning to our life's journey. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because it is through this attentive observation that we realize that childhood can become a field of infinite discovery, where each fragment of memory holds a hidden truth. Each sensation carries an impact, and each talent suggests paths we often overlook. When we understand that each memory, each fascination, each fear or joy is a piece of a spiritual map, we begin to interpret the present with much more awareness and realize that life is, in fact, a journey of integration between who we were, who we are, and who we can still become. This awareness allows us not only to live better, but also to see repetitive patterns and unconscious choices with clarity, bringing a new mindset and a greater capacity for personal transformation. The magic of this process lies in realizing that everything that happened in childhood, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, can become a powerful tool for self-discovery. Each reframed emotion, each recognized talent, and each understood fear offers opportunities to act more consciously, to adjust paths, and to perceive truths that were previously hidden, revealing the real impact our memories can have on decisions, behaviors, and relationships. Emmanuel reminds us that childhood is not just a chapter of the past, but a living resource, ready to be used, understood, and applied in a practical way, illuminating paths that often go unnoticed by the rational mind. It is at this point that we realize the depth of the message. Looking at childhood with attention and affection is not just a spiritual reflection. It is a practice of true transformation, capable of influencing mindset, choices, and trajectory. Every memory, every emotion, Every talent or fear contains an opportunity for revelation, a portal connecting past, present, and purpose. It is through this portal that we can better understand who we are, what patterns define us, and what paths we can still explore. Childhood seen this way ceases to be just a phase of life and becomes a map full of signs. Behind the scenes, stories, and messages that silently guide us. Offering a clearer vision of our own journey to comment there, that makes sense to me. And if you've made it this far, congratulations, because you've walked with me through a very special part of this journey of self-discovery and reflection on childhood, and the messages it holds for our current lives. If this content resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos that further explore these revelations and paths of transformation. And since we're connected, leave a comment below saying, "I'm with you until the end," or something that shows this message has reached you too. If you felt this conversation brought you some insight, some light, or just a thrill of recognition, don't forget to give it a like, because every gesture helps keep this exchange alive and allows more people to access content that truly makes a difference. And look, there's a video right here that goes even deeper into this topic. Click and stay with me there, because what you'll discover could transform the way you view not just childhood, but your entire life journey. After all, every memory, every emotion, and every detail we analyze together is just the beginning of a journey of discovery. And I want you to be with me every step of the way.